Okay. Thank you so much, Peggy. I'm so grateful to be with all of you today. My name is Reverend Dr. Kathleen Johnson. I'm the spiritual director for Center for Spiritual Living Delaware. Woohoo! Yay for Center for Spiritual Living Delaware. So grateful to be in community with all of you today. And I welcome all those who have not been here before. And just know that no matter what your spiritual path is or has been, or where you are on your spiritual path, that you are welcome here. There's a place for you here. You're welcome among us. And I would just like to take a moment and honor what's this, not only this weekend is all about, but tomorrow, Memorial Day, realizing that there are men and women who have died in the service of our country to ensure our freedom. And so I'd like to take a moment of silence and reflect upon that. And at the same time, let's invite everybody into our hearts and our prayers who have lost loved ones in wars or in the process of service. Because truly it is the ones who are left behind that need some extra love from us. And so let's be mindful of that as we take this moment of silence. So giving thanks for this opportunity to know the truth. And so together we say, and so it is. Lovely. What I'd like to do now is invite all of you to join me in this high invocation to remind us of who we are in truth. And so repeat after me, I am that I am.
I am that I am.
The beloved God presence that I am.
The beloved God presence that I am.
Is moving through me and as me.
Moving through me and as me.
I invoke the divine presence.
I invoke the divine presence.
To fill every cell of my body with light.
To fill every cell of my body with light.
To surround me with a pillar of light.
Surround me with a pillar of light.
To fill all of my affairs with light.
To fill all of my affairs with light.
I allow the pure light and love of the divine.
I allow the pure light and love of the divine.
To flow from me and move me.
Flow from me and move
to
me.
be of highest service to all life.
To be of highest service to all life.
I joyfully bring love and light.
I joyfully bring love and light.
To all who enter my field of awareness.
To all who enter my field of awareness.
Knowing that my light.
Knowing that my light
contributes to the enlightenment of all.
Contributes to the enlightenment of all.
Let's breathe that in. Let's feel it. Let's know it to be true. And let's accept it with a powerful yes. And so it is. Lovely. Okay, now I'd like to introduce to you one of our special guests, and I'll introduce Reverend David a little later. But right now I want to introduce to you Marcy Baruch. Now, I've known Marcy for quite a few years now. When we were part of affiliated New Thought Network, she was a regular in the house band. She creates original music. She is this amazing light and this beautiful descant voice that sounds like an angel. And she is an angel. When you meet her, she is angelic. And the song that we've often sung when we were together, The Presence is Here, or we've heard at the beginning of the services, that's her song. She wrote that song, and that's actually her voice. That's one of the voices on that CD that we purchased from her quite some time ago. And also, I want you to know that the song This Joy is hers, and she has many, many others, and she'll be sharing actually them with us today. So we are so blessed, Marcy, by your presence. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much, Rev Kathleen. It's so good to be here with you all, CSL Delaware. friends I may have met and friends that I have yet to meet. Here we go with The Presence is Here. I was just overjoyed to know that you all have been singing this, and I'll sing it once for anybody that is not familiar with it, and please just join in whenever you feel like it. And it'll be kind of fun at the end because I'm going to do a blend of descant and melody, so we'll make it a big virtual chorus from wherever you may be, from the chorus of the cosmos that is singing and rejoicing as the very presence and power of your one magnificent life. The presence is here. The presence is here. Love and spirit prevail on each face. The presence is here. Amen. The presence is here. Beloved, I will meet you in grace. The presence is here. Presence is here. Love and spirit prevail on each face. The presence is here. Amen. The presence is here. And I will meet you in grace, freely given. The presence, magnificent presence. Oh, the presence is here. Love and spirit prevail on each face, on your face. Oh, you are the presence. Oh, the presence. I will meet you in grace. Yes, I will meet you in grace. Beloved, now I will meet you in freely given grace. Thank you so much. I'd like to pass the mic to Peggy now.
Wow, that was so beautiful. Thank you very much, Marcy. My heart is open. My heart is open to this service and to life now. Good morning, Center for Spiritual Living, Delaware. Thank you for joining us on this cold, rainy Memorial Day weekend. I am Peggy Fry-Moyer, for those of you who don't know me, your platform practitioner for this morning's service. We can stay inside and stay warm and dry this morning and just enjoy this service. And it will be it is an enjoyable service. Would you please close your eyes, go within, and join me in prayer. God is all there is. God is the Almighty, the first cause and creator. God is divine originator, unconditional love and joy. God is all of these things and more. And as God is all of these things, I am all of these things. And as I am all of these things, each one of us is all of these things. Each one of us is grand artist, divine orchestrator. Each one of us is unconditional love and joy. And so each one of us is the center of divine operation in the universal mind, able to create new stories for ourselves and our lives. Each one of us is an individual beneficial presence on this earth, and each one of us has the ability to change our stories for the better, for ourselves, and for the good of the world. Today, I release my old story and behold the new me as the beloved. The desires of your hearts are the possibilities that can be manifested in your experiences. Today, you are going to take your life into your own hands, realizing that God is ever with you. And today, I want to recognize and offer gratitude and thanks again for all who have served and are serving in our military forces here in the US and around the world, especially for those who have given the ultimate sacrifice for our country and for our freedom. I give thanks for our speaker today. I'm looking forward to this, to Reverend David Alt, and for our great musician today who has already demonstrated just huge skills and huge abilities to open our hearts. Marcy Baruch. Thank you for making today's service a special treat for us all. And as this is our last Zoom service, next week we transition to live services. That happens with ease and grace and community and oneness. I would like to thank all those involved in keeping our services going through the pandemic, and to thank all those who keep our services in CSL Delaware going into the future, especially board members, Dan and Michelle with audiovisual, Sharon Bousquet and Deb Chamberlain for keeping our music going, the practitioners, to Virgie Cooper and Bruce for all that they do for CSL Delaware, the readers, the diversity team, Linda Patton for hospital visits, and all the other teams that will soon be up and running again once we are back in our home space at CC Arts. And of course, a big thanks to Reverend Kathleen, who is our rock and foundation here at CSL Delaware, who keeps the high watch to make sure it is all good and more good in everything we do. I give thanks to all who make this Center of Spiritual Living Delaware one. I give thanks for the truth and for all things that make up our CSL Delaware service today, and for all the creativeness, original thought, limitless good, and possibility that brings us together to make this service so. And so it is. And now I'd like to introduce Virgie.
Thank you, Peggy. Thank you for that beautiful evocation and that beautiful meditation as well. Good morning, family. My name is Virgie Cooper. I'll be your host today. If you're joining us for the first time via Zoom, please make sure that you put your name in the chat so that I can welcome you personally, and make sure that you get signed up for our newsletter. For those of you who may be joining us on Facebook for the first time, our very own Sharon Bousquet will be reaching out to you to personally welcome you and to make sure that you get signed up properly for our newsletter. Please follow along with me as I read our CSL intention statement, CSL Delaware intention statement. We, the Center for Spiritual Living Delaware, are an inclusive, welcoming, vibrant, ever-expanding spiritual community rooted in new thought, ancient wisdom principles. We are here to be the presence of love, co-creating heaven on earth, a world that works for all. Yes. And now for our announcements. It's official. We are going to be returning to in-person services with live streaming on Facebook starting next Sunday, which is June the 6th. That same afternoon will be Yorkland Day. It's going to begin at 12 p.m. Artist Sally Petrillo will be selling 35 of her paintings as a part of Yorkland Day. She'll be selling them at the CSL Delaware table that afternoon in the CC Arts backyard. And she's going to be donating half of her proceeds, sales proceeds, to benefit the CSL Delaware House Band Fund. So yay for that. But now with the return, we are seeking volunteers to help with indoor cleanup and to help us to prepare in other ways for our return. If you would like to volunteer, please join us this Friday, June the 4th. We'll be there between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. Excuse me. You may not be able to join us for the entire time, but any amount of time that you have available will be greatly appreciated. Now, with our return to CC Arts, they are requiring us to wear masks. When we are in service next Sunday, our musicians and Reverend Kathleen, all of whom are totally vaccinated, will be allowed to remove their masks when they're singing or speaking. CSL Delaware, in partnership with the Association for Global New Thought, is celebrating Season for the Earth. It runs from April through June. We are devoted to making caring, spiritually motivated choices that heal and nurture a thriving, healthy planet. Information and tips for honoring the earth are being shared weekly in our newsletter. So this week, we're featuring downloadable earth affirmations, and I'm encouraging everyone to read them, to share them, and embrace them. And just to give you an idea of what some of the affirmations are, I'll share just one in the interest of time. But today, I bless and care for the earth by using only what I need. So once again, check it out, read, share, and embrace. May is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Every year, this is an opportunity to learn about the diversity within the Asian American and Pacific Islander communities and how deep their connections are to all facets of American history. Our newsletter has a link to stories airing through the public broadcasting service, better known as PBS, spotlighting the lives, heritage, and contributions of our Asian American and Pacific Islander brothers and sisters. In lieu of the June Social Justice Circle, which would have been held on June the 19th, the Social Justice Initiative Ministry is encouraging everyone in our community to register now for Beyond Juneteenth. It's being presented by the Delaware Art Museum on June 19th from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. For those of you who may not know about Juneteenth, it's the oldest celebration commemorating the freedom of enslaved people in the United States, while also acknowledging the ancestral legacy we have yet to grow into. This is a free event. It's free for people who are members of the Delaware Art Museum, as well as people who are not members. So it's free for all, but registration is required. And the Social Justice Initiative Ministry is looking forward to doing a brief presentation on Juneteenth over the next few weeks so that we have a better appreciation for what that means. And finally, for details and Zoom links on all of our activities, visit the CSL Delaware news site and click on the Get Involved tab, or you can check out the CSL Delaware newsletter in your email. And with that, I'd like to bring back the very lovely Marcy Baruch. I'm sorry, Marcy? This is still Virgie. Can you see me? I don't know. Can you see me?
I sure can, Virgie. Hello.
Have to tell you, I joined the community about 5 years ago. And when I heard that song, The Presence is Here, I bum rushed Dan and said, I need a copy of that song so I could listen to it. And I listened to it and I listened to it. And I don't know if you remember the commercials where people get all out of sorts and someone hands them a Snicker and they come back to themselves. When I get out of alignment with source, I listen to The Presence is Here and I'm back in alignment. So it's just amazing that you're here singing that song. Thank you. Thank you for blessing us with that song and with your presence.
Oh, Virgie. Thank you, sister. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. It is such a joy to be here. This joy is remarkable. This joy is contagious. Amen. This joy is invincible, and this joy is outrageous. It's more than I dreamed of. I love this joy. Sing with me. This joy is radical. This joy is always waiting. This joy is ravishing. And this joy is worth creating. From things I let go of, I love this joy. And this joy is remarkable. This joy is contagious. This joy is invincible. This joy is outrageous. It's more than I dreamed of. I love this joy. And this joy is radical. This joy is always waiting. And this joy is ravishing. And this joy, it is so worth creating. From things we let go of, I love this joy. That verse one more time, here we go. This joy is radical. This joy is always waiting. And this joy, it is ravishing. And this joy is worth creating. From things I let go of. Oh, it's more than I dreamed of. And I found the strength of love. I love this divine holy joy. This creative power to choose this joy. Let me hear you within sing this joy. Evolution of our consciousness and joy. Thank you so much. Now for, I believe Jenny's up next. Thank you.
Wow, I am just awash in God bumps right now, and filled with so much joy and love and appreciation for all of you. Good morning, Center for Spiritual Living Delaware, on this beautiful day where all this liquid love and joy is just raining down on us today. We are so blessed, this beloved community. Wow. So for today, the theme for May is 2021 is Holy, Holy Uprising. And the topic for today is boldly living a new story. New Thought Minister Raymond Charles Barker shares this deep insight. All creation starts with desire. God desired self-expression, and the cosmos was born. The desires of your heart are the possibilities that can be manifested in your experience. And Ernest Holmes advises you to write your own life and script in these words. Today, you are going to take your life in your own hands, realizing God is ever with you. Please join me in boldly living a new story by affirming together. Today, I release my old story and behold the new me as the beloved. Yippee. And now, with the joyful, loving, open heart, welcoming back our beloved Reverend Dr. Kathleen Johnson.
Oh, Jenny, I just love the energy you put into those affirmations. They really come alive with her, don't they? So I'd like to introduce to you Reverend David Alt, who I have known for years. Well, let's just say he's an acquaintance. I don't know him deeply, but I've seen him speak. I've heard him sing. In fact, I own a bunch of his songs that I've gotten over the years. You know, many of you don't know, but he was one of the people in the Alliance years ago who toured with Louise Hay. And for over 30 years, Reverend David Alt has been a prophetic voice for the human potential movement, a crusader for mindfulness, global literacy, and social justice. And what is his singular intention? It's guiding humanity into that great collective awakening. He's a person of my own heart. And as an award-winning author of the books Where Regret Cannot Find Me and The Grass is Greener Right Here, he is also a leadership coach, a global education advocate, and he leads by example, knowing that all people would rather see a lesson than hear one. And I know I've heard one of his talks on climbing the mountain, and I'm assuming it must be Kilimanjaro, because he's a great adventurer. He's hiked the Inca Trail in Peru, the Camino de Santiago Trail in Spain, and also summited Kilimanjaro in Africa. He also has this beautiful foundation that he started 15 years ago called the Kaleidoscope Child Foundation, whose mission is to advance vulnerable children and communities with sustainable education, life skills, and fresh water. So this Kaleidoscope operates schools and programs in Cambodia, India, and Guatemala, with more than 1,000 children served annually. I mean, he's doing a lot of great work in the world, as you can see. He's also, when he lives in Atlanta, and he was the dean of a council of multi-generational, multi-faith leaders who assisted others in dissolving systemic issues of unworthiness, bias, and racism while building equality, character, ethics, spirituality, and wellness. I could go on and on. I think you get the essence of what this man is all about. And so we are so blessed. We are so gifted and honored to welcome you, Reverend David, into our hearts. Thank you for being here today.
How fun and how auspicious, I guess, to be your last Zoom guest minister. So what a treat. I got to tell you, my favorite moment of the whole morning was Virgie. When Virgie said to Marcy about the Snickers thing, it reminded me of how we have nicknames for our children. And so Marcy, that song now will always be the Snickers song. At least in the Delaware community. Isn't that true? I mean, we have all these different nicknames. So to me, it's the Snickers song. Thank you, Virgie, for that. Oh gosh, I was thinking the title, Boldly Living, a new story, a new paradigm, a new expression. And it reminds me of my all-time favorite quote. Do you have an all-time favorite quote? Mine comes from A Course in Miracles. And it's, love brings up everything unlike itself. And the first time I heard that, I was like, what does that mean? And I would sit with it and I would sit with it. Love brings up everything unlike itself. And then it hit me. If I'm going to be someone who boldly stands up before anyone and says, I'm an advocate for love, then anything unlike love will rise up to stand next to me, not to test me, but to help me make good on my advocacy. And that's what I really took away from that particular quote. Love brings up everything unlike itself. So if you and I are going to boldly pronounce this new story, this new paradigm, then according to this quote, everything unlike the new paradigm, everything that is associated with the old baggage or the old identity will still continue to try to get our attention, to cling on to, and to do whatever it can in order to keep us where we are. I would tell that to students over the years. Love brings up everything unlike itself. Or if you say, I'm an advocate for peace, then everything unlike peace arises again to help us make good on that advocacy. And I would watch the faces of my students because they would go, I'm not going to say anything because they didn't want those things to come. And I'd go, but naturally in our evolution, isn't it true? Isn't it true that the old will reintroduce itself or continue to tap us on the shoulder in order to sort of help us make good on our decision to move forward? Are you sure that you want to expand beyond your conformity? And those are all the types of things that we get to look at and explore today, because what a huge title. What an enormous calling to boldly live a new story. And what makes us move beyond the intellect, beyond me just being this face on a screen talking about that, to you actually becoming so invested, not interested, but invested enough that when this is over today, some new decision is made. Some concrete application is explored. I remember years and years and years ago when I lived in Los Angeles, I wanted a patio table. I had this little postage stamp sized patio and I wanted to get this patio table. And I didn't have the funds for it. And I was driving around and lo and behold, there's a patio table on the curb that somebody threw away. Eureka. I picked up that patio table and shoved it into my car and got it home and slapped on a coat of paint. And it was good for about a week. And then I began to notice that the paint would peel. And so I'd slap on some more paint. And then about a week later, the paint would start to peel. And I became more curious about this table and I turned it upside down, and underneath the whole bottom layer of the surface of this tabletop was completely rusted. And all that I was doing was applying paint over something that needed a lot more attention. And there were several lessons in that. One was make sure that you can bring a level of specificity with regards to what it is that you're calling for. And the other, the utilization of the gifts that we are given. We've been given this gift of life. And yet there is a lot of things that we could associate with being rested that are going to sort of want to stand in the way of our living a bold new story. So I think of rust as themes. Do you know that you and I are walking around with a whole bunch of themes inside of us? Let me give you an example what a theme is. I don't have enough time. Do you realize that that's a theme? There's actually no truth to that. And yet, because it's so universally accepted and we say it all the time, it becomes a theme. And when you start to think about all of the collection of themes that we have within us, it's remarkable how we get locked into these identities, how we become loyal to these themes. Sometimes themes are started by what Carolyn Mace, the teacher and author, used to say were 6-second moments. She said something that literally could have taken 6 seconds is an established theme, or is something that you continue to carry around with you to this very day. 6 seconds. That's not a lot of time. That's like a second grade teacher looking at you and saying, why don't you just mouth the words, okay? And you may have loved to sing, but what did you do in that 6-second moment? You squashed, you pushed down that creative, free expression, and you started to cultivate a theme that said you couldn't sing or that you didn't have this particular talent. And it becomes really fascinating when we stop and get quiet and begin to consider or to become curious about all of the themes that we are carrying around with us that inhibit or rust us from boldly living a new story. And when I think about those 6-second moments, I think about my own personal story. It's very stereotypical of growing up poor in Southeast Texas and not having enough. And my father passed away when I was 7. And in the middle of the night, when the VA hospital called my mother to let her know what happened, that was back in the days of a rotary phone. There wasn't enough rooms to go around in the house that we lived in. So I slept on a cot in the corner of my parents' room. So it was right there where the phone was. I could hear the attendant nurse in the VA hospital informing me of my dad's passing. And then my mother thanked her and hung up the phone. She picked the phone back up, did those rotary dials, called my aunt, told her what happened. And then she said this, what am I supposed to do with a 7-year-old boy? And I heard that. And in my 7-year-old mind, I started to cultivate a theme that somehow I was in the way, that somehow my presence was uncomfortable or it was a burden. And what had just transpired, I was just adding to the level of difficulty. Now, I didn't sit up in my little cot and make this proclamation that this was my truth, but it was a seed planted that began to percolate. And it wasn't until I was an adult, until I was embarking upon a spiritual journey, that I even remembered that incident. But I was fascinated. I was fascinated how that seed had germinated and had created behavior within me that was indicative of that theme. So I want to ask you this morning, before we boldly live a new story, I think it's essential that we turn to the curiosity of our themes that perhaps tell us that, why bother at this stage of life? Oh, you have explored new stories before and you've created this affirmation and you've stepped forward onto some new endeavor only to ... But you see, a lot of those things, whether they're personal sabotage or some low-level futility that is swimming within us, they're all just a part of themes. And themes are nothing more than thoughts that are being fed. And in order for us to really, really, genuinely, authentically begin to welcome in the boldness of a new story, then the new story will bring up everything unlike itself. It will bring up the theme. And what can be fun, yes, I'm going to actually call it fun. What can be fun is to begin to deconstruct the themes and to simply look at them for what they are. For example, the theme of me somehow being a burden. When I remembered the story, I remembered and was shown that what my mother said verbally had nothing to do with me. That it was the outpouring of perhaps someone who was grieving, even perhaps someone who was angry at being left in a situation with all these kids, being someone who was frightened and uncertain. It had nothing to do with me, the being of me. And yet I took it to have everything to do with me. And I'm wondering this morning if the themes that you might be carrying are the overlay or the product of a 6-second moment. And I want to offer you that they have nothing to do with you. That all that is a verbalization of an external world that is not a representation of your true authenticity. Because our founder, Ernest Holmes, said that you and I live in a perfect patterning. I love that. And you know, in order for something to be a perfect patterning, so what he was describing was not just the cosmological framework of our earth, but all of life. And he said, in order for that to be true, in order for us to accept and embrace and welcome in the ideology of a perfect patterning, then we must accept that everything in the cosmos is perfect. And where are you and I? We are in that, which by beautiful deductive reasoning means that our essential nature is perfect. And so when you start to play around a little bit with language and we talk about learning things, I like to look at the word learning and scrap it. And I say there's nothing to learn because we are already part of the entirety of creation. What we're really here to do is to unlearn all of the 6-second moments, is to begin to shed all of the things and the thoughts that prevent us, the rusted thinking, if you will, that inhibits us from boldly, not just living, but embodying the new story. And so in order to create this story, in order to welcome it, we have to begin to welcome a new narrative about ourselves. And to welcome a new narrative means that we have to become aware of the old narrative. We have to become aware of the thoughts that we are verbalizing about not being good enough. All of the stale collective ideology that says that we don't belong, not good enough, to this, to that. We have to notice it. Instead of turning away from those things and busying ourselves with intellectual affirmation, what if we turned to it and diffused it? What if we turned to the 6-second moments? What if we turned to the thoughts? What if we turned to the themes and we began to compassionately look at them and understand that they have nothing to do with us, because what we are essentially is a perfect patterning? Do you see the difference in the energy of turning to rather than turning away and busying ourselves in being spiritual? Turning to has its own level of vibrancy and maturity. Turning to the falsity so that we can begin to dissolve it is much like I would think in medieval lore, when the knight would turn to the dragon rather than continuing to run from it. And the moment that it turns to the dragon, it's like he reclaims his power. And the potency of the flames of the dragon are no longer a reality. And so to turn to the old narrative so that it can dissolve, to turn to it lovingly and to see that it has no validity, gives us the space for the new narrative to come in. You know, sometimes what I say, in order to grow, you have to outgrow. In order to grow, you have to outgrow. Can we truly grow if we're running from the old narrative? Have we created the space, the spaciousness for the new narrative to take root? And so in order to really welcome the new narrative, there are a couple of things I feel that are helpful. One is to become dissatisfied. To become, sometimes in New Thought circles, we will call it divine discontent. To actually welcome your dissatisfaction. I liken it very much to disruption. Can you imagine welcoming disruption? Welcoming dissatisfaction? It's the thing that in us that becomes sick and tired of being sick and tired. It's the thing within us that becomes weary of the old story. And I think that that's essential for growth, because when we grow weary and when we welcome the dissatisfaction, we become aware that a new story, a new evolution is actually possible. And so the dissatisfaction and the disruption then is the invitation to take our fist and to open them, to begin to release. And in this dissatisfaction and in this disruption, I think it's really important to begin to look for things that are prototypes of what you desire. You know what I mean by that? To begin to focus on things that are representations of your internal inspiration. To begin to go into high noticing. Some of our great new thought pioneers, like Emma Curtis Hopkins, she would talk about living in a state of high noticing. What is that? That's awareness. That's living in the essence of welcoming all of the time that the prototype or the thing that is calling you is all around you. You don't need to discover it. You don't need to learn it. You simply awaken to its presence already. And so in this dissatisfaction and in this disruption, space is being created, and we begin to open our eyes and to look at the inspiration that we need. Dr. Kathleen was telling you a little bit about my foundation, Kaleidoscope Child Foundation. And prior to the pandemic, much of my life is spent overseas. And we began in Cambodia, and we have schools and campuses in Cambodia now that offer free education to over 600 children. We moved that to India, where we are in slum territories and beginning to create pioneering literacy campaigns to children who just didn't know anything about that. And then also in Guatemala, in Central America, where there is a deeply uh, a deeply disturbing new form of slave labor that involves a lot of young Guatemalan girls. And so when I think about the disruption in my own life, the dissatisfaction in my own life, and trying to take these principles and to bring meaning to them, there's no better way to practice than to be in an environment where they seem to be totally void. And Guatemala in particular, some of these young women, because they are multi-generational products of poverty and crisis mentality, it's hard to convince a Guatemalan mother that it's worth giving their daughter an education, because all they can really think about in that moment is the crisis. And so they don't bat an eye in sending their daughters to these slave labor camps. And here we are trying to convince them that, no, let's let your daughter have this education. And one particular girl, Gloria, in order to get to our school in Panajachel, she would get up, she would do her chores, and those chores are quite extensive. She would walk down a mountain, she would get on a bus, she would then get off of that bus after an hour, and then she would walk uphill into Panajachel just to get to the door of our school. And the light in her, the enthusiasm, whether there was a monsoon outside or not, was unfailing. And I decided to let Gloria be my prototype, to be my prototype for the perpetual hunger of good and possibility and solution. And so sometimes when I find myself in these disparities, I think of Gloria. And so it lets me dissolve dissatisfaction, disruption, dissolve. It lets me dissolve any tight clinging to a theme that tells me it's not worth it or tells me that solution isn't possible, because I think of her and I think how unfailing she is. And Gloria to me is the face of the universe. Gloria to me is the face of what a perfect patterning looks like, because there's nothing in the world of effect that stops her from showing up at that classroom door. In fact, the last time I was there before the pandemic happened, her ankle was swollen. And I said, Gloria, what's going on? And she said, I fell when I was getting off of the bus. And it wasn't until I actually even said anything that she noticed, because her focus was so much on the activity of what was happening in class. Dissatisfaction, disruption, dissolving leads to then what I would call dedication. Dedication. I heard that sometimes we are the amalgamation of the 5 people we spend the most time with. That kind of stopped me in my tracks a little bit. I was like, woo, the 5 people that I spend the most time with. And I realized I'm at choice of who I spend time with. I want to spend time with more Glorias in my life. I want to spend more time with people who have made space for solution. I want to be sort of on the bottom rung in the room so that I can continue to look up at them and continue to climb. I want to forever have beginner's mind. And so one of the ways that this helps is another quote, which I will close with today. And it was by a travel writer named Doug Boyd. And he said, the most powerful mantra that you can ever say is, I'm available. And then he said, look out. Because if you mean it, your whole world will change. I'm available. So your tool to sand your rusted thinking, to actually move into the paradigm of a new story, is to let go of the how and to simply say, I'm available. I'm available. I'm available. And with that, I joyously pass this beautiful light of our service together back to Marcy.
Wow, David. I think I'm going to listen to that about 40 times. And speaking of the number 40, this song is exactly 4 minutes long, and which means that you have 40 opportunities to allow all these 6 seconds of rusty overlays to dissolve, to release, and also to grab hold of the new. Really take your time with this. This inner space has the power to set me free. It's the cavern of creation and the truth of you and me. This inner space, an eternity of time. It's the moment of the holy now and the allness that is mine. This inner space contains all that I need. From deep within the invisible flows the living air I breathe. This inner space is flowing in my bones. It stirs my heart, it stirs my mind, and every prayer I've ever known. So I say, breathe, just breathe. Now breathe this peace, this inner space is the ocean of your soul. And when you feel most broken, the truth is you are whole. This inner space connects us one to all, and though it will never push you, it will break down every wall, every wall. So I say, breathe, just breathe. Now breathe this peace, for this inner space invites us to renew. In all my endless choosing, I become the chosen to this inner space. It never knows the past. In a quiet place you can hear it, and it might just make you laugh. So I say, breathe, just breathe. Now space. Thank you so much. Jen, back to you.
Thank you so much, Marcy, David. Oh my goodness. I'm just filled with so much love. Thank you. Um, I gotta write a different story right now. So, hang on. Wow. Each week, the Social Justice Initiative Ministry shares a practice from the Association of Global New Thought for cultivating a nonviolent mindset. This week's practice is friendliness. To humorist Will Rogers, strangers were simply friends he hadn't met yet. What a beautiful idea. This week, view those you encounter in this light and know that you are always, always in the company of friends. So, to all of my friends on this Zoom and out beyond, I want to now introduce Bertie, my sweet soul sister.
That's my Zen Jen. All right, family, it's offering time. If you received inspiration today, and I know that's yes, all capital letters, then now is time to give thanks and generously give to the good work of CSL Delaware. I need you to imagine your intended offering in your hands and then place your hands over your heart and say with me our offertory blessing. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies this offering. The Spirit gives abundantly, and I receive thankfully and give again generously. This is the bounty of God, and I send it forth with wisdom and joy. Divine love bountifully supplies and increases this offering. I give freely and fearlessly, fulfilling the law of giving and receiving. So that is. You may send your offering by PayPal or check by pressing the donate button on our website homepage. And we'll make sure that we put that link in the chat for you to make it convenient for anybody who'd like to do that while we're still in service. And want to make a difference? Donate to the CSL Delaware Benevolence Fund. All you need to do is to simply mark your donation benevolent fund. And so we'll have funds that we're generating and putting aside for those of us who may be in need. However, if you find yourself in need of financial support from the fund, simply contact one of the board members, which would be myself, Tom, Reverend Kathleen, Jenny Stewart, or my beloved Bruce Tatum. Please type prayer in the chat if you desire to have prayer after service with Peggy. And you can also send your prayer request by phone or email to Peggy, and the practitioners will pray for you for 1 week. And you can submit your prayers as many times as you need. And with that, I'd like to turn things back over to that sweet singing angel called Marcy.
Thank you so much, Virgie. Thank you, everybody. I feel so held by the grace of this community. The rivers run strong with you. Thank you. I wrote this song with Linda Martello Witzet. Once you hear the first line of the A section, you'll know that part by heart, so feel free to join in. The B section, 3 lines, once you hear them, you'll totally know those too. So here we go. Thank you so much. We are walking each other home, drawn by the pull of love. We are walking each other home, drawn by the pull of love. Here we go. We are walking each other home, drawn by the pull of love. We are walking each other home, drawn by the pull of love. And love is the magnetizing power. Love is the harmonizing power. Love is the unifying power as we walk each other home. And we are walking each other home, drawn by the pull of love. Oh yeah, we are walking each other home, and we're drawn by the pull of love. Oh, we are walking each other home, and we're drawn by the pull of love. Oh, we are walking each other home, and we're drawn, let us be drawn by the pull of love. For love is the magnetizing power. Love is the harmonizing power. Love is the unifying power as we walk each other home, as we walk each other home. Oh, as we walk each other home to that which we already are now. Home, the glorious essence of the divine now. Home, walk each other home, walk each other home. Oh, going home, oh, going home. Yeah, now let us walk each other hand in hand. Oh, now as we walk each other home. Thank you so much. Thank you, Reverend Kathleen, for inviting me. Thank you, David. Thank you, everybody. So good to be with you. Thanks.
And thank you, Marcy. Thank you, Reverend David. Thank you, Jen and Jenny and Virgie and Dan and Michelle and Peggy and all those who are here today with us for co-creating this amazing thing that we call celebration service. which we know is simply experiencing the truth of our life as beautiful expressions of the infinite spirit. So I'd like to end today with an affirmation. This is from Ernest Holmes, our founder. And since we were talking about writing a new story, of letting go of all the rust theme thoughts, let's claim our good. And this is one of my favorites. And so let's say it together. Just repeat after me. Good and more good is mine.
Good and more good is mine.
An ever increasing good is mine.
An ever increasing good is mine.
There is no limit to the good that is mine.
There's no limit to the good that is mine.
Everywhere I go, I see the good.
Everywhere I go, I see the good.
I feel it, I experience it.
I feel it, I experience it.
Good presses itself against me,
Good
presses itself against
flows through me,
flows through me,
expresses itself in me,
expresses itself in me,
and multiplies itself around
and
me.
multiplies itself around me.
How grateful I am for this infinite good.
How grateful I am for this infinite good.
So we give our thanks for that truth. I say namaste, my friends, and enjoy the rest of your day and take us in our hearts with you, knowing we are walking each other home to right here where each of us is, that wholeness, completeness, and perfection of the one life that we get to participate in. So I'm so grateful. Love you. Have a great day.
All right, everyone, you can unmute yourself to say goodbye and say thank
See you next Sunday.
Thank you.
Yay!
everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, Marcy.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Love you.
Oh, love you all. Thank you.
Hi, bye, bye. Hi,
Kill
bye,
the
bye.
recording.
Oh, that's right. Say goodbye now.